Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special afternoon edition of Talking Away The Taboo. I am so thrilled to bring on the renowned psychologist, Dr. Jessica Zucker. She is the founder of the I Had a Miscarriage movement. And now she's here because she has a new book out. It's called Normalize It. And this is all normalizing things is so much of what we do here at I Was Supposed to Have a Baby. And I am really excited to have this conversation with her and to bring her new book to all of you, because this is all of what we do here at I Was Supposed to Have a Baby. I know I'm now repeating myself. It's kind of ridiculous, but it is the essence of what we do is really speaking about things, talking about things that people don't talk about, and the only way that we can normalize. I think, I'm so shocked that a book like this hasn't been written already, but I'm not surprised that Dr. Jessica Zucker took this upon herself and said, hey, this hasn't been written, and we here need to talk about it. So, hi, it's been a bit.
Hi. I know. This morning, as I was getting ready to connect with you, I was thinking about the last time we spoke, which was, I think, around my first book in 2021.
Yes, yes.
A lot
And
has happened. Yeah,
oh, okay, so let's go back and remind everyone who you are, how we met,
sure.
all
Yes,
about all about the beginning. I mean, not obviously the beginning of your story, but the beginning of your work in spreading, talking about shame, talking about stigma, talking about things that
sure.
people don't talk about, right?
Okay.
So, yeah,
Tell me if is it too loud out here? I'm outside because there's too much commotion in my house.
you're
Okay,
you're
so
good.
just let me know. Okay, well, I will maybe go all the way back. So as you know, I'm a psychologist and I specialize in women's reproductive and maternal mental health and have done so for about 15 years at this point. And I come to the field with a background in public health. And in public health, I was focused on women's rights and women's maternal health. And so when I started my clinical practice, my hope was that I could marry everything and sit across from patients talking about all these issues. Up until that point, though, I had no personal experience myself that really informed my passion for these issues, aside from the fact that I'm a woman myself. Until, and you know all of this, until I was 16 weeks into my second pregnancy and I had a miscarriage while I was home by myself. I was instructed by my OBGYN by phone how to cut the umbilical cord as my husband darted through LA traffic to come home to be with me. We brought the fetus in a bag to her office to be tested, and then to make matters all the more traumatic, I had to undergo an unmedicated DNC. So all of that is important, not only because it changed the course of my personal life, but also because it really got me thinking about the people that were sitting across from me who I had understood the best I could, but really from a theoretical perspective. And so now I had firsthand experience and I was sitting in so many of the feelings they had been talking about. So I turned to the research, and the research finds that a majority of women feel a sense of self blame, shame, and even body failure in the aftermath of loss. And this just befuddled me, outraged me to the point where I couldn't help myself and needed to sort of go public about this somehow. Like I just felt like, how can I be part of making a dent in the cultural conversation or lack thereof? And so in 2014, I launched the I Had a Miscarriage campaign with my first New York Times piece. And you know the rest. I mean, I kept writing and writing and writing on the topic, various aspects of it. And then that eventually led to my first book project. But now, the
We can,
second
I was going to say,
one,
we can be twins. We can be
let's
twins.
be twins. So, yeah, I mean, the silence, the stigma, and the shame. It is a strident trifecta. This is how I see it. The silence begets the stigma, begets the shame, and then here we go again. Is it too loud?
You're good. You're good.
Okay.
It's actually quite soothing from my perspective because I'm hearing the
Hearing
sounds of
garbage
nature.
trucks.
No,
Oh,
I was
okay.
going to say I saw the birds flying across,
Oh,
and
good.
I'm not
Okay.
hearing the garbage truck, so
Okay.
it's
It's
all good.
just like my kids are on spring break. There's just nowhere to go.
Of course.
Although I could hide in the sauna. Maybe I should do that. But anyway, um, yeah. So I see this swirling trifecta as it relates to pregnancy and infant loss and life after. But then this mental health publishing company came to me a few months after my first book came out and asked me to write another book. And it was then that I realized, of course, like I could expand my lens even further to look at everything from girlhood through menopause and then some.
I think
I'm done talking for a second because I
yeah.
got sick, of course, because my book just came out and the excitement was so vast that my system had to kind of go kaput on me. So
Hey, look,
I'm
this
dealing
is
with
the
a
way
cold.
all I was going to say this is the way all things are because they all things have to happen at once, which I think is actually another a kind of lens that we can put on this, right? Because the the idea that, you know, we as women, we go through all of these different pieces in our lives, right? And we don't talk about so many of them. But then when you layer on, like, why don't we talk about it, right? Exactly as you were saying, the shame, the what are they going to say about me, the stigma, what does this mean for me, what does this mean for my family now that I'm associated with this thing, whatever that is. There are so many different layers, personal, professional,
That's right.
communal, etc., and so many pieces. So here I'm thinking, of course, you're now talking about this, and now you have layered on a cold and layered on stress and layered on the fact that your kids are home from school and you can't
Right.
do it in the way you want. Like, it perfectly makes sense to me.
Yes, yes, yes. And I mean, thinking back to when we first met, you were considering how to create everything you've now created and launched. And tell me how you've been and what you've done with your
Look,
organization.
you know, I've done my own version of Normalize It. I really, I and it's been the work of trying to normalize speaking about fertility struggles within the Jewish community at large and all of the emotional pain that people carry, and regardless of what that struggle is
Mm,
and which pocket of the community you're coming from, that
yes.
the core of it, as we all know, is this deep desire to try to build a family.
Mm,
And sometimes it doesn't work out the way you expected. Sometimes it's not in the timeline that you expected, the number of children that you expected, with the partner you expected, with the egg or the sperm that you
that's
expected,
right.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the more I deeply believe, and in this work, which is why so much that your book really speaks to me, and I think speaks to the I was supposed to have a baby community, the more that we can talk about it and talk about the nuances, not just infertility, not just pregnancy loss. Like, yes, all of those things, those bigger ideas are important and those bigger experiences are important, but the core of it being the pain and
Yes.
the grief and the the deep sense that people don't belong because of their experiences. If we can talk about it, it makes things easier.
Oh my
Like, I
gosh.
always
Hold
I
on.
you're good,
I'm
you're
like,
good, you're
I'm
good.
trying to get out of the
Yeah,
sun. Yeah.
yeah. No, look, what I always say is that there are many fertility organizations in the world, Jewish organizations and not, and many of them do things like help people get into great doctors, give people
Mm,
financial assistance to do their treatments, match them with sperm donors, surrogates, etc.
Yes.
We don't do any of that.
Right.
We talk about the experience, and hopefully talking about it, like I always say, I can't give you a baby, but I can help you feel less alone in the process.
Exactly. What you're doing is so incredible. Have you connected with the Misconceptions podcast? Good.
Yeah,
That seems
they're
like a perfect fit for you. Yeah.
they're great.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
great. So can you tell me more about this idea about like what Normalize It in terms of is based on the idea that like silence over storytelling or storytelling over
Right.
silence is
Sure.
silence. Can you share more about that? Because I feel like
Hmm.
that's kind of what we do, and I think there's a lot of overlap there.
Yes. So, right, the book is really dedicated to replacing silence with storytelling, which is really like what my first book was focused on as well. But this goes broader. And this actually, the book is strewn with examples of patients. They're fictitious, of course, or composite stories. But then I'm trying to illustrate for the reader just how we can actually replace silence with storytelling. So, of course, the book takes place in my fictional office. That means that all of these people are in therapy with me. Uh, but what we're working on, well, part of what we're addressing is how they can share their important stories outside of my office. Hold on. I'm still trying to get you to a better place here.
Good,
Um,
good.
and so, yeah, I'm just uncomfortable because it's falling. Um, and so the examples through the book vary, right? So, of course, as a therapist, I believe in mental health. I believe in investigating where we come from, why we struggle with the things that we struggle with, um, diving very deeply into grief and the roots of it, because grief for everybody shows up differently and can last different amounts of time depending on one's history and you know their family background, their cultural background, all of it. Um, but also, they leave my office, right? And where do they go with those stories? And can they feel comfortable showing up as their full selves elsewhere, right? So I give examples, and as simple as writing in a journal, because a lot of people, for good reason, don't want to be public about their stories, don't want their name all over the internet, do not want their face associated with sad stories, maybe. And that's okay. I mean, as you know, I mean, you've decided to go public in the way that I've also gone
Great.
public, but I had to really consider if that was a smart decision professionally way back when. And I felt like the risk was worth taking. And I think that's kind of the crux of vulnerability. We don't know how we will be received, how our messages will be received, how our important experiences will be received by others. But I argue through this book that taking the risk in itself is the antidote to the shame. Because, again, somebody may respond with a platitude that makes you run for the hills,
Totally.
or somebody else may say something, they put their foot in their mouth, but you've said it. And even if you're incredibly disappointed by the person's response, or now the relationship even changes, I think it's so important that we all be able to say, but I showed up, but I tried, and I actually did not stay silent. And so the book kind of gets into ways that we can continue to do that while taking care of ourselves, nurturing ourselves. And so, like examples, like I said, like journal writing, you can burn it. So if there's a
Yep.
family secret, for example, that you need to put somewhere, but you don't want to put it out into the world, write it down, burn the journal. Fine. Um, Other ways, as there's anonymous support groups online, chat groups where you can remain anonymous. if somebody does want to kind of put their words in the world, but they don't want their name associated, you can use a pen name, or you can write it anonymously as well. And then I have examples in the book. I have Nova, for the Nova Festival. Nova is the final character in the book, and she is in the chapter that's called On Change, which is about menopause. And she decides to give, it's not a TED Talk, but like a TED Talk type of uh, performance about the experience of menopause and the invisibility that comes along with turning 50 plus, whatever. I have her, of course, living in Los Angeles, so she talks a lot about that. Um, so it's a whole range. I think that as a psychologist, my biggest concern is that when we remain silent and we then, are part of swirling around in the stigma, and then the psychological piece comes in and it turns into shame, it's insidious. And so if we don't work to share our stories, that shame can devour us. And so many things can sprout from that, addictions and other self-destructive behaviors, depression, anxiety, all of that. So that's the crux of this book. I think this book is actually kind of perfect for anyone probably like 20, 25 through the end of life. I was telling my mom the other day, she's a couple years from 80, and she's like, am I going to be able to relate to the book? And I said, actually, I couldn't be more perfect for you, because it provides an opportunity to reflect on the course of your entire life, the way you mothered, the way you womaned, the way you worked, the way you navigated relationships, the way you taught me or didn't teach me about menstruation, the way you learned about menopause or didn't, all of these types of things.
I really love that and relate to it so much here in the Jewish fertility world, because I find that we have many opportunities for people to share their stories anonymously or not, in support groups or sharing their stories. Sometimes people send me their entire testimonials, or they send me poems that they've written about their story,
Mm,
and they have that opportunity. But what's interesting about what you just said about your mother, about how this gives her an opportunity to reflect after she's had so many of these experiences. I'm sure you find this as well. There are certain people, and more people, who can sit and talk about their experiences while they're very much still in the midst of it. They're really in the middle of whatever they're going through, and they need an outlet, and they want to share, they want to normalize it.
mm,
And yet there are so many others, right, who can't talk about whatever it is until that piece of their life is over. And I don't
exactly.
think, from my perspective, there is no better or worse there.
No,
As long as someone has some kind of outlet at any point, whatever time, that's absolutely fine. But I find so many people share, and they're more willing to share with their names after they've gone through the experience. And that reflection, once it's over, it comes from a different place, and it's incredibly powerful, really similarly to someone who might be sharing really in the midst of it.
that's such a good point. Yes, I think that sometimes, I mean, depending on the level of trauma and again, one's background, culturally, religiously, familially, sometimes we can't put words to the intensity of what we're going through when we're literally like in the soup. There's just maybe nothing to say. Maybe it's all tears. Maybe it's all rage. Maybe it's all fear, you and then for others, that's all they want to do. I want to vent about it. I need to talk about it. I need somebody to connect with through this in order to make it feel like I'm not drowning. So,
Exactly.
yeah, it really depends on the individual. And I think that we need books like this so that people can kind of see themselves in it and know, like what you just said, that there's no right or wrong way. We're all just trying to do our best, but that if we can feel like we're in community, or at least that we're not alone, because, it's so common right now, it's everywhere, t-shirts even, that say you're not
Right.
alone.
I,
And as you
I
know,
almost can I say even I almost hate those words at this
I know,
point. Like they make
well,
me kind
because
of cringe.
right, because it's kind of too
Yeah.
trite, and also because we can know we're not alone. Like the statistics make us know we're
Right.
not alone. But what about feeling not
Yes.
alone? That's completely different. So you can know that 1 in 4 pregnancies result in miscarriage, or 1 in 7 in infertility, or
Yeah.
the 1 in 160 in stillbirth. I think that's the number. Or 1 in 7 breast cancer. You can know all these things. It doesn't make you feel less
Right.
alone to know that maybe someone who lives 7 houses up is also going through the same thing, unless you actually connect or feel like you're being acknowledged, that someone understands. It doesn't have to be the same experience exactly, but it's just that sort of communing around something so difficult makes, I think, all the difference.
1,000%. A
I
thousand
love
percent.
that you cringe at "You're Not Alone." That's hilarious. Yes, it's
It's
great.
it's so funny because look, I mean, as you said, you started speaking about miscarriage and your movement in 2014. We're 11 years post that, right? Then the
Wow.
"You Are Not Alone" was so powerful. Now I'm like, oh my God, here we go again.
I
I'm like,
know. Well, and that's what's interesting. It's part of why I like this as my book title, Normalize It, because I feel like everyone is saying that, but in such different
yes,
contexts. And so people don't know exactly what it means. And I feel like for this book, it means normalize talking about hard things.
yes,
And that will never get old. And
absolutely.
that will never get trite. It's like that is a mainstay. And we need to keep that front and center, because when we don't talk about the hard things, we suffer.
A
Maybe I'll
thousand
read you
percent.
something from the book before we say goodbye. I don't want to say goodbye to you. We need to be in touch
I
more often.
that is super clear. But you need to feel better. Your kids need to go back to school, and you need to like finish this book tour, and then we'll have a substantive conversation.
Yes. Okay. I'm just going to read from the epilogue just a little something. Every time we dare to talk about the hard things, we create ripple effects that ultimately help shape and shift the master narrative, the stigmas, the shoulds. In the face of this revolutionary zeitgeist shift, we have the chance to exist in the mess without feeling we are the mess. The truth is that living in the gray in between, away from the all or nothing black and white binaries, might be the most challenging place to reside. This is the place of vulnerability. This is the place of openness and authenticity. Maybe that's why society tries so desperately to evade it. But it is perhaps the only place where we feel truly seen, truly understood, and truly ourselves. This may be the only place from which we can acknowledge the entire spectrum of our emotions and experiences, the place where we can lay it all out. No hiding, no pretending, no siphoning of feelings. That's the
Beautiful,
book in a
beautiful,
nutshell.
beautiful. I am so.
You got to read
I,
it.
I no, I mean, I've already started going through pieces of it, and
Good.
that quote about how that we're not the mess, like that really spoke to me, and I'm
Wonderful.
actually going to use it in my next post here right now.
Oh,
But
perfect. Good, good, good.
Dr. Zucker, thank you so much. You and I will connect separately, but
Yes.
everyone out there, we do it all here at I Was Supposed to Have a Baby. We talk about it. It's the essence of what we do. And now, and now there's a book for it that you can
Yay. And
tangibly,
if you
yeah,
want to do a giveaway, I'm open to a giveaway. I don't know if you do that stuff, but
we can.
if your audience would want a book, I'm happy to give it to them.
All right. So we will do that. We will do that. I'll set that up in our next post. Everyone, this is the practical. If you want, like, let's see, how many pages are we? If you
It's a
want
lot of
285
books.
pages of what I was supposed to have a baby is and the power of what it does, this is this book. Normalize It. Go get it. We'll do a giveaway also. And I'm so honored that you were here talking about this. We will connect more soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to see you.
Wonderful to see you too. Bye, everybody. Take a look out, and we'll do this giveaway, and we'll get this
Yes, and
copy out
buy
to
the
you.
book.
Yes, we'll have the
Help the
links.
early
We will
sales. Yes.
we will have the links everywhere. We will have the links
Thank you
everywhere.
so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.